Prepare for the show. 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 Prepare for the show.
Prepare for the show, 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 prepare for the show.
Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show.
Prepare for the show.
Prepare for the show.
Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show. Prepare for the show, yo, 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 yo. Prepare for the show, yo, 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 yo. Prepare for the show, yo, 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 yo. Prepare for the show, yo, 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 yo. Prepare for the show. Prepare.
Imagination runs wild, heart so was free. Eyes behold wonders, ears listen elegantly. Oh, the excitement this world brings, orgasmic redundancy. Listen elegantly.
Talofa Wear, everybody. Welcome back to the Wefobz Podcast Season 3, Episode 4. I'm your host, T Flat, and today we have a very special guest joining us. Somebody whose journey stretches across Samoa, New Zealand, Hawaii, Japan, yep, the list goes on, California, and now Arizona. This is somebody who has lived through multiple worlds: law, media, culture, music, politics, storytelling, and community leadership. Today's guest is not just a creative, he's a thinker, a storyteller, and someone deeply connected to Samoa, our people, and the future of where our culture is headed. Please help us welcome Albert Ainuu. What up, Moose?
Talofa, malo soifua, upiang a lot.
Guys, so smooth. What's good, brother?
Everything's good, especially our special guest coming in for today, Malae Soifua, Mr. Ainuu. Malo.
Hello, lover guy.
Albert, first and foremost, thank you for joining us today. So we appreciate your time and we're excited to hear your story. I always like starting at the beginning because I think people understand the person better when they understand where they come from. You were born in Auckland, New Zealand, moved to Samoa, served a mission, attended BYU, Hawaii, became a lawyer, you can correct me, worked internationally, and eventually transitioned into media and creative work. That's a powerful journey. Take us back to the beginning. What was life like growing up for you? And what do you think shaped your identity the most during those early years?
Well, I was born in Auckland in a little. I grew up in a little place called Herne Bay, which is on the coast, and it was a beautiful place. I remember the place as growing up, and then we moved into the town because my mom she was a businesswoman, so she started a store, one of the first Samoan Polynesian stores in New Zealand. So she had this store on Karangi Happy Road called K Road. It's like the main strip in Auckland.
Ooh.
And she started with one and then she opened a second one. So during that time, I remember my dad was a carpenter, so he would do his thing as a carpenter, and my mom would be running the store. And I think that shaped me a lot, only because you know they were active in making things happen. My mom, especially, was a very active person. I'll get into that more later. Anybody who knows my mother knows uh, she's one of a kind. And anyway, so she was a very tough disciplinarian. I remember a lot of times getting the laying on of hands from her. And she was just, she didn't want me to, I'm glad she did because it kind of put me on the straight and narrow. I've learned later on in life that all those lessons are really important, especially when you grow up as a young kid. If you don't have fear, you become you make stupid decisions.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
and that's where even though a lot of people don't like the style of disciplining that our people have gone through, some people take it overboard, of course, but I think it's always been very effective because we as a people are we're very dynamic and we're very, you know, proactive. But if the activity isn't correctly fashioned, it can go off in the wrong direction easily. So anyway, based on that, and one of the side stories from that is growing up, my dad used to take me to the wrestling matches. We used to watch, and there was a remember the Samoan wrestler back in the day that everybody wanted to watch was Peter Fanene.
Mm.
Mm.
Peter Fanene is he started in Auckland, so we used to go watch him there. He was really good, had a lot of personality. Next thing I know, I come to Samoa and I watch him on TV. Now he's Peter Maivia, and of course that whole you know Samoan um, representation in the world wrestling started with that individual. So I remember seeing him as a younger guy, and yeah, so those were my memories. You know, growing up in New Zealand. You know, it was a beautiful place. Made a lot of little friends. Then we moved to Samoa after that. So when I was 8.
Wow. Then you finally went to the motherland,
Yes,
and from
that
there,
was
is that
yeah. My mom, who has always been she's sort of the mover in our family, decided, okay, we're going to Samoa, and so we went to Samoa. Um, I went to a bunch of different schools, including Apia Primary. Uh, went to Pesenga. I ended up in Pesenga. So when I went to CCWS, and then I actually um, came to back to New Zealand for 1 year, and then went to Christchurch and went to high school in Christchurch for a year. Then I went back and went to St. Joseph's. So I graduated from St. Joseph, um, which is a Catholic school. And the reason why I went to St. Joseph's is my mom was always getting in arguments with the leaders of Pesanga CCWS. So she decided, when I came back, she decided, you're going to a Catholic school now. So I went to St. Joseph and made a lot of very good friends. A lot of my friends in St. Joseph are, in the business community. Same with Pesega. A lot of my friends there are all leaders in different areas. It's been great watching everybody develop and grow and move into the areas. So I'm still kind of still, you know, I don't think I've stopped um, the learning process. I think that's just something
Mm.
I've always um liked. That part of life, just learning and becoming becoming a student of life, and that's sort of why I've gone to a lot of different places, picked up a lot of different things, and hopefully I can share that with everybody.
Yes, we will do that today. From Samoa, is that when you went into your mission? You
Yes,
did serve a
yes.
mission right after that?
So
Yeah.
I was actually I was supposed to go on a scholarship to Fiji, because when I graduated from high school in St. Joseph's, I passed certain exams that were you know so I got a scholarship. But then my dad was like, you know what, I'd rather you go on a mission. And so I decided, you know what, I better listen to my dad, and I went on a mission. And so it was funny. I'll be walking down up here in my shirt and tie and name tag and meet all the St. Joseph guys, and they'll be like, "Hey." It was fun. And the mission, of course, as we all know, for those who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is that's probably the most um, educational experience you can ever have. What it takes to be a real Christian and to be able to develop your testimony of what you believe in and share it. So that was probably the best experience of my life in terms of um, it gave me, it grounded me, it gave me that basic foundation, and it stayed with me throughout until this time where I'm at now. I'll never forget those lessons and some of the beautiful experiences of meeting people who, there's one lady, she lived in one of the villages, and she was the furthest away. It would take her probably an hour to walk to church, but she was always the first one at church, her and her family. And then we would go visit her every week. And one week she had a big chicken dinner for us. And I was like, wow,
Ooh.
this is great. And then I'm looking around, I was like, wait, where's your rooster? Because she had one rooster. And she said, no, you're eating it. And I said, no, you shouldn't. And that's the level of, dedication that our people have, even though they don't have much, they always give it to the missionaries or, it, so yeah, it was experiences like that that really taught me what is really valuable in life.
Yeah. That's kind of like you mentioned, well, like the humble beginnings when you became a student of life, right? That's kind of when everything kind of came in together for you. Is that what that you're referring to? Like the starting point of your faith, completing your journey is kind of where everything
Well,
became more clear in the
you
starting
understand.
point.
You, I mean, going to church, like as a kid, you go to church, but when you go on a mission, you really see how you see it in its full capacity of what is important. So we are, you go to school thinking I'm going to go get a big, become a successful business person or what, a teacher or whatever, and you're always thinking along the lines of whatever's materialistically important. And I think a lot of people, that's that's what is guiding them, or that's what's motivating them. But
Mm-hmm.
once you go through an experience like a mission or where you serve people, then you come back to understanding it's not about the material things, because we're
Mm-hmm.
not going to take none of that with us anyway. It's
True,
more
true.
about, creating those relationships. It's all about relationships, and that's the part that we learn on a mission. That's the part that our culture teaches us that. And one thing that I did leave out is while I was going to school at St. Joseph in my senior year, or my, yeah, Form 6, um, I was given the title Namulauulu. Like I said, my mom was very, very influential. She was a Matai. She had the Lawaki title. And so when the family decided to create new Namulauulu titles, I was, of course, she wanted me to have the title. And I was just a
Oh,
high school
nice.
senior, but, you know, I had to do it because she's my mom, and she was going to suss on me if I did.
Wow.
But I've had that title ever since, and it's a great thing to know that you're acknowledged by your family, and it's more because of her service, her work. She laid the foundation for everything, and yeah, she taught me a lot about our family, our culture, our heritage. Going back to Lawaki, Mamue, all of that. So sort of giving me that pride in my family, but also the urge to do things that will benefit, our people.
Mm, yeah. Powerful experience. Is this where right after this was completed, did you transition into your educational and went to BYU in Hawaii?
So after the mission, I actually went to uh, American Samoa. I worked 1 year there, and then I got accepted to BYU Hawaii, and I went to BYU Hawaii, and I was at BYU from 1978 to 1981. I graduated in 1981, so I got my bachelor's in history. Um, One of the highlights when we first arrived in Hawaii, got off the airplane. My friend who I served a mission with, and we went to school together. Amatanga Lela Manua picked us up at the airport. There was a few of us, so we're heading back, going up the Likelike, going through the tunnel, going out the other side of Kaneohe, and then he says, "I'm going to take you guys to lunch." So we go to this little hole in the wall restaurant called L&L's. That was the first time I ate Hawaiian barbecue, and yeah, it was just this little place called L&L's. Yeah, so of course we know L&L's right now is no longer hole in the wall. But when I went to BYU, I was working um, at the Polynesian Center. I started out as a dancer, then I found out that the musicians make more money, so I went became
Smart.
I
You
played
picked
guitar.
up.
Yeah, I picked that up.
I
Um,
see.
and then I ran. Oh, then I ran for student body president,
Ooh.
and you know, I'm watching the. I don't know. These things come to me naturally, I guess. I was evaluating the campus um, population, and I realized of all the people running, there wasn't there wasn't a Palangi, there were no Howleys running, but
Ooh.
they're the largest population there. They're not there. They're there for the semester in Hawaii program, but still the biggest number. And the other thing I noticed was there was about 2-to-1 ratio of girls to guys. There was more women than guys at school. So when I
Wow.
decided to run, I was like, okay, I got to find a good looking Palangi guy as my running mate. So I'm sitting in the Aloha Center and just checking everything out. And this guy walks in, tall, good looking Palangi guy. And I walk over to him. I say, hey, you want to run for student body president with me? He said, sure. I don't know him. He doesn't know me. But anyway, it was funny because I would send him to all the Asian clubs because you know how the Asian girls love Palangi boys.
Shout out to the Asian girls, man. This
That was a
AAPI month, man.
stereo.
Represent
So
for
I said
everyone.
my boy was out there. He was campaigning, and we came out of nowhere and won that election. It was funny.
Wow.
People were like, "How?" Because usually it's one of the Samoan or Tongans that wins the elections. But and of course, I'm Samoan, but the the fact I think we killed everybody because we had all the girls voting and all the Palangi.
That's
Uh,
funny.
Anyway, that was BYU was a great experience as well, and I always remember that place fondly. Um,
That's nice. Is that the same place where the transition? This was news to me. I didn't know, like, your pursuit in law. Is this
yeah,
right after
uh,
this kind of transition into that? Could you tell us about that?
right. After that, I applied to Western State University College of Law. It's in Fullerton, I think. Yeah, right across from Cal State Fullerton, or as we used to call it, Cal State Disneyland. So that was the school I went to in 1982, and I graduated in 1986. Um, and then I took the bar a couple of times. I was working for a lot of different law firms. I worked for the county council Orange County County Council, and I also worked for a bunch of law firms. But I didn't pass the bar a couple of times. One of the reasons is I didn't really take off to study. I was I had a lot of financial responsibilities, so I decided I'll just study like 2 weeks before the bar, and I came close, but it was you gotta a lot of guys would take off 3 months to study, and I was planning on doing it. Then one of the guys that rented a room from me during that time was a Japanese gentleman, and so we became really good friends. And he went back to Japan, and he kept checking up on me. And after the second time I took the bar, he was like, "Hey, why don't you come to Japan and take a break, and then go back and take the bar?" I was like, "Okay." So I went to Japan. Little did I know he wanted to hijack me and keep me in Japan, because he started a computer manufacturing company. So I was working with him. It was one of the few companies that we were going up against Sanyo and Sony, and we were just a small. They didn't have any of these, and this was back in the day when they had 486s. So we were we were creating our own computers. I flew with him to Taiwan to pick up all the order the parts and everything, and then
Wow.
yeah. Well, the reason he could do this, I didn't realize at the time he was a very rich gentleman in Japan. He kept telling me he had a little bit of money, but I didn't realize that until I went to Japan, and my boy was, yeah, he was hooked up. So
Wow.
one time we went. There's a big lake in the middle of Japan called Lake Biwako. So he took me one time. We were driving around, and we stopped at this one little beach, and we're standing. We're looking out, and beautiful, beautiful spot. Japan is. Oh, if you have a chance to go to Japan, go to Japan. That place is amazing. But we're
Definitely on the
standing
bucket
there.
list.
Yeah, the people are so respectful and so you know. There's a lot of things I know now about Japan that you know that we don't realize. But he's like, "You like this spot?" I said, "Yeah." And then turned around, and there's this big little condo thing in the back. And the following week, he said, "Okay, I bought a couple of condos at that place you like." And so yeah, so he was a good friend of mine. He and his wife and his kids, we were like family. And I learned a lot about Japanese, but he wanted me to stay in Japan. He even tried to marry me off to this beautiful Japanese girl, but I don't know. For some reason, I wanted to come back to the U.S., but I should have stayed. But yeah, that was Japan. Japan is always dear to my heart. What a beautiful place. We were in
Wow.
Kyoto. Kyoto is like the old capital. So Japan has such a long history of things that are very outstanding. Their culture is
Mhm.
amazing, and the one thing you think the Japanese, the way they portray the Japanese men are running everything,
Mhm.
that's a bunch of baloney.
Ooh.
The women in Japan, they run the show, but they put on that little facade so that they make their man look like he's the main guy. But
Wow.
Japan, it's funny.
Man. Man, Al, one thing I respect about your story is that you experienced so many different environments. You studied history, attended law school, worked in multiple law firms, and even spent years working in Japan. That kind of exposure changes the way a person sees the world. What originally inspired you to pursue law, and how did those experiences shape your understanding of people in society?
That's a good question. I appreciate it because when I thought about it, after BYU, well, towards the end, I already knew I wanted to go to law school because I thought that would be the best way for me to help, people, is to represent them in a court situation. Um, but all of these different experiences have shaped, it's given me a bigger picture, and I'm able to analyze things from different perspectives that a lot of people don't have. And it actually makes me more humble to know there's a lot more forces at play than we really know about. We a lot of times we want to give ourselves credit for certain things that we succeed at, but there's a lot of people, there's a lot of different entities like schools, like churches, the culture, the village, everything comes into play, and you don't realize it until you go away, and then you look back and you see, oh man, you know, that's what helped me in this. Or you come up in a different situation and you have access to that experience so that you can definitely make the right choices in life. So it's important to have, you know, the humility, to understand that you're only a product of what other people have invested in you, the time
Yeah.
and their love and compassion, and because we all make mistakes, and
Yeah.
it's good to know that you haven't burned too many bridges, that you still have a few bridges to you can go back over if you need help.
Yeah. I think sometimes our people don't realize how valuable perspective is until we leave home and see how the rest of the world operates. Then we begin understanding both the strengths and challenges within our own communities. And what are your thoughts, Guy? Do you have any input on that?
I'm just more like Mr. Ainu, what was the hardest transition? You've been through all these transitions. Which one which one of those was like the hardest one that you ever went through? I mean, you went through so many places. You just dropped so much gold there. I don't even know if any Pacific Islander has ever done this this journey, this ultimate journey that. But yeah, that's what I want to know. What was your hardest transition? How did you handle it? And what's some tips you can give us if there's a lot of us going through that right now.
Oh, I the hardest transition. It's I kind of look at it differently. It's more it's an internal thing. Okay,
Mm,
so I mean, things are happening around us all the time. You get hired at a job, you get accepted into a school, you get, you know, accepted into a team, play sports. And that all comes with difficulties. But I think the most difficult transition is understanding who you are. You got to find out, first of all, who you really are, because a lot of people don't understand where they came from. And the reason it's a difficult transition is because, you know going from one place to another and trying to you know there's so many different attractions, there's so many different influences, different people are trying to influence you. You have to remain true to who you are until you know who you are.
Yeah.
Every time you go into a new situation, people are trying to influence you, and if you are not strong with your basic core knowledge of who you are, then you're going to have a really difficult time adapting. And the key is, I mean, you do have to adapt to a certain degree, but make them adapt to you.
Mm,
Because if you sacrifice who you are, you lose touch with your core values and your core person. your heritage, where you came from, you're lost. And I think understanding that, I think, was the most difficult thing. Going through all of these different situations, I understand now that those little sasas from my mom, they weren't little back then, but those are what shape, those experiences are who I am. Well, and I always give her credit for that. I give my father credit for just being a stable, solid guy. He was there for us, for as a family. And I think we those are the most difficult things in terms of being able to adapt and succeed, because a lot of people get blown away by all the fancy stuff that's going around them, and they lose sight of what their real direction should be, or where they should be going. Or as a young person, you need to understand where you're going before, because this is a journey. And if you go, you're going to hit a lot of forks in the road.
Mm.
You got to make sure you choose the right path. And uh, that comes back to knowing who you are, having a good, solid foundation in religion and in God, understanding that He is the ultimate guide to where we, you know, I always say this: the cheat code for life is just listen to God. That's
Mm.
it. Yeah, it gets too complicated when you
Amen.
try to figure everything by yourself. Just read the scriptures, pray, and you'll never go wrong when you stay with that. I've
Amen.
strayed aside. I've been down the wrong path, and I'll tell you, it's a lot easier when you're not going down the wrong
Think we've all been down the dark side.
Right. Yeah, that dark side is crazy.
path.
Now this is where things get really interesting to me, because even with your background in law and business, creativity has always been remained part of your life. This is where I come in, brother. This is kind of where the connection between you and I coming together. Art, music, documentaries, television productions, writing, digital designs, all of it. Where do you think that creative side of you comes from?
That comes from my father. My dad was a very talented artist. I remember I saw later some of his Bibles. I had drawn pictures on other pages, but my dad, he never hit me once. So, uh, but he had that was his talent, was art and creativity. So, um, now my mom, on the other hand, she was creative in terms of developing systems, developing things that people
Mm.
could connect to as a creating networks. So I picked that up from her. But the older I got, I came back from Japan. I was still working. I was still intending on taking the bar, but I was in Hawaii, and I got involved in creating a TV show. Well, actually, I started with Olelo. If you all know, Olelo is public access television. So I
Oh,
decided, I wanted to check it out, and they had great facilities. Oh my gosh, they had perhaps some of the best public access television is in Honolulu. So I was lucky that I got in there, and I started a little show just on public access, and then I decided, okay, we're going to we're going to make this a business. So I approached a number of different stations with my concept, my show, and found out how much they charged per. And back then, you could get a half hour on a regular, like K5 or KHON. No, KHON. Yeah. Um, for like $75, or it was a ridiculous price. So I created a television show called Hit TV, which was aired in Honolulu during the 90s, 96. And at the time, I was actually on the North Shore booking a lot of bands in the Kahuku Sugar Mill. So I was booking bands there, and this one band came in, all sisters, all Filipino girls from Honolulu, and they were really good. But the one sister I noticed, they were all very pretty, but I decided on this one girl, her name was Angie, and I talked to her, I said, would you like to be the host of my show? And she said, sure. So Angie became the host of my show. Lo and behold, this is 96. And she was a natural. I mean, so the show is based on the music scene. I had the hookup with all the different promoters in Honolulu. So we would go to all the different concerts and we would just interview, we would just go backstage, interview whoever would, you know. So a lot of times, like Ice T would go up to Ice T and say, hey, bro, can we interview you? And he's like, nah, I'm not trying to do no interview. And I'll be like, well, Angie here was going to do the interview. He took one look at Angie. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. So that was the formula. But we got to meet a lot of no doubt, Gwen Stefani, all the different um, Ice Cube, Fushnikins, all these artists that were coming through. We even were allowed
Wow.
to go to the airport when Michael Jackson came, but we weren't allowed to interview him. But we met a lot of people that we're still connected to now that were part of his entourage. But
Nice.
it was a great experience. And then lo and behold, we were doing that. When then we went into the local scene as well. So we started getting close to all the local artists. Then our host decided to run for Miss Hawaii. She had run before, she hadn't won, but with all this experience, she ran again and she won Miss Hawaii, and then she won Miss America. So that was a
Wow.
cool thing. I was able to go to with her family to New Jersey, and we were there when she ran and she won that night. I was backstage with the camera and everything. So it was just an awesome, that was one really cool experience for me.
Wow.
That was when I really got hooked into the entertainment and production of TV and that kind of thing. 2000, I went back to Samoa, and I connected with a buddy of mine who he was trying to do television as well. So we started a little television show in Samoa and in New Zealand. Then I came back. I started doing distribution to all the different stores. We would take videos back in Samoa, and I came here and I was looking at the stores and the Polynesian stores, Samoan stores. They were selling videos from Samoa for like 45, $50. And I figured out, and they weren't really that good quality. So, I killed that market because I started selling it at $15. And but it was better quality and it was cheaper. So
What a shark.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, the people loved it. I made, I was connected to every store throughout the U.S. I even drove out to Missouri one time to see if they had a store, and they didn't have a store, but yeah, it was good. I got to see how big this country is when I drove back and forth I would go up to Seattle, San Francisco, LA,
Wow.
Nevada, Utah, Hawaii, and we were making pretty good money. But then things changed to DVDs, and then the store owners started making their own DVDs. So
Yeah.
that's when I realized, okay, it's time for me to get out of it. But yeah, that was how I got into that, and then I got into San Diego. I started a TV show down there. It's all about the hip hop scene there. So I made a lot of connections. So I love doing. Media has always been a part of my thing, and then I created that website, Malae, for the Samoan community, and I think that's where you and I connected.
Yes,
A
sir.
lot. We started doing Malae, and it was really it was very busy. It was very, and we had a great time doing that. I don't know if you ever came down to any of the sevens rugby tournaments in Vegas. Oh man, we had everybody would come, even from New Zealand and Australia. They would come, and we had our annual get together, Malae get together there. So
Yeah, I wasn't able to get out there with the rest of the team, but that's the first Samoan collaboration that I worked on where Al and the Limalai crew invited me in. Probably I don't recall how you recognized my talent or how we connected, but eventually we started a branch out here, and that was about 11 years ago, 12 years ago. Today, SRC out in our local area,
yes,
the Samoan
yeah,
Reno community, it's still going.
yeah,
When people come and visit our city, they would when they do their research, they'll find us through SRC, and we'll get phone calls and be like, "Hey, do you guys know where our family just moved in and we're looking for a
that,
church to go to?" And I'll be like, "Okay, cool. Well, what religion do you have?" Because I'll be able to offer them, and how I was able to connect with pastors locally,
yeah,
with their ministry and support locally community, the Samoan community out here, and delegate all these the tourist people that come in to visit to where can we go eat? Where's all the recommendations? And so many years, it's still going today. I'm very grateful for that experience. It humbled me, Al. I thought of you building all of this as we discovered together, and I look forward to the future things that's going to come from all this. I think storytelling is one of the most powerful things our people have. Before social media, before technology and cultural survival through stories, music, chants, memories, and oral history. You also played bass and bands and trumpet and marching and jazz bands. Music has always been a universal language. I know you touched a little, but you touched about it. But how has music influenced your life creatively and spiritually?
well, with let's put it this way. Without music, I think I would be I wouldn't be as happy as I am. Music is it just gives me so much happiness and joy, especially playing with a group of musicians, and that moment where everybody's locked in and they click, and you're in the pocket. Oh, that is a whole
Right.
that makes everything else just dissipates, all your worries. You're in the zone. So music is an escape, but it's also a great learning experience because you're working with different instruments. Each person is playing their own separate piece, right? They're not playing the same thing you're playing. They're playing a whole different thing. But when you put it together and that music comes out, man, and people are just, you can see the people vibing and dancing. Oh, that's the best feeling ever. So I really think music is like a great example of how teamwork should be. When everybody is working together, they create beautiful music. And that's the same thing in any
Mhm.
organization, any establishment, any company. When you when everybody's doing their part and it just matches what everybody else, that same energy, man, that's the ultimate in terms of working together as a team, as a group. And I love, when you watch our people, even when they're rowing the Fautasi, and they're
Mhm.
all singing, and it's like, oh man, you can catch that energy. That energy just, it's, or whatever they're doing. Our people just love to sing. So it's just part of who we are. We understand the value of music in our lives, and it creates a whole different energy. It just, makes you appreciate, yeah, everything, much more. Without music,
Right.
it would be a very, very dull existence.
Yep. You also spent years producing television shows and documentaries, And to me, media is one of the strongest tools in shaping culture and identity. I know we touched on this, but what originally pulled you into television and film production?
Well, like I said, when I came back from Japan and got into public access, it's almost as if something clicked inside of me that said, "Okay, this is what you're supposed to do."
Mm,
And since that moment, I have been doing that religiously. When I went back to Samoa, I did a documentary, Lu Fasiaitu, and it was about spousal abuse, and
mm,
it was very well accepted. People, and just putting that because we kind of made it like a docudrama kind of deal where there was parts of it that were acted out just so that people could see. And the most moving scene in that whole documentary, it wasn't even planned. We had told the couple, the actors, the couple, the man was supposed to start beating his wife, which happens in Samoa. It happens everywhere, I guess. But we were trying to create this documentary so that people would understand how it affects the children. So we had this one little boy, and I told him, "Look, your parents are arguing. Just act like." And he did this one move that it just broke everybody's heart when they saw him. And it wasn't, I didn't know at the time I'm directing him, but I wasn't telling him what to do. I just told him how to feel and respond accordingly. And when he did what he did, and it was I can't even, you'd have to watch the movie to see it. But every time people watch that, yeah, it speaks volumes of how the children take that kind of experience, internalize it, and they're not saying it in front of the parents, but he was like in the back behind the sefe. In Samoa they have your sefe where you have all your plates. He was standing behind that, and we were shooting it from his he was standing behind that listening to the argument going on, and he just did this one move, like just it was crazy. So experiences like that, storytelling is such a powerful medium to get a message, portray a certain message that you're trying to just, to try to get people to become better. I mean, that's the whole, you know, when you look at Jesus Christ, when he was telling parables of everyday situations, right? He was telling parables about, the the 10 virgins who, five forgot to bring more oil, and these are just everyday situations, but that's the kind of the visual impact that those stories had.
yeah.
And people understood what the message was when he told these stories, the Good Samaritan, all of these different things. So I think when we look at media as a tool, it's a powerful tool in terms of creating, changing people's way of thinking, changing, behavior, if that's what you want to do, or just entertain people. A lot of
Mhm.
people, we just need to be entertained. Now, there's
Yeah.
a bad side to media, and I'm pretty sure we all know it can distract you from certain things that you need. So you have to be smart about it as well when you're
Yeah.
watching media. You know, understand that sometimes people have bad motives. They're trying to manipulate. A lot of people can be manipulated through media, and that's the
Yep.
other part of this whole industry that we need to educate our people. Don't just buy into everything that you're seeing on TV or the movies, because
Yeah.
they're conditioning you, and they're
Hmm.
trying to change the way you think to accept what they got coming down the road. Um, and so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think now more than ever, our people need ownership over our narratives. If we don't tell our own stories, somebody else will tell them for us, and they may not tell them correctly. You're still creating today. You're working on a novel and a movie script called Fasiaitu, The God Slayer, and also developing Talofa flavor. Tell us about Lu Fasiaitu and what inspired that story. And please correct me. I apologize if I butchered that.
Well, Lu Fasiaitu he was a historical individual, and it's a very interesting story. I don't know how much time you have, but
Oh, it's all about you today. Let's go.
okay. Well, the short version, when you listen to the story as told, it's a very short story. Lu had chickens.
Mm.
Tangaloa, the god, his people came down, stole Lu's chickens. Lu got mad. He went through the nine heavens looking for his chickens. He defeated all of Tangaloa's people, got up to the ninth heaven where Tangaloa was, and he told Tangaloa, "You better give me my chickens or I'm going to kick your butt."
Bruh, that's the story that everybody tries to keep hidden that you're talking about? Oh, the Lou story.
You know now what I'm talking about.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead. Oh my gosh.
So Tangaloa offered Lu his daughter as you know, to appease him and so that he wouldn't, you know, slay him. Now, here's the interesting piece about this. We all think, okay, it's a very simple story, but they did um, DNA research on the chickens here in the Americas, right? You know where those chickens come from?
Yeah, I know all about that research you're talking about. I also know some scientists that are tied to the research. It comes from our island.
Yeah, exactly. So my story kind of expands the parameters of where was the ninth heaven, and
Mm.
I'm saying that Tanaloa, which you know, similar to Tuimanua, they had their kingdoms, they had these empires, and the part of our culture that people don't understand, we have the technology to go to different places. People keep saying, "Oh, you came from Taiwan and came all the way down." No, we had the technology to travel. They didn't have the technology to travel. We had the Aliyah. We had the double hull canoe, right? And remember when they were sailing the America's Cup in San Diego and Australia was kicking our butt? What did they bring? They brought the catamaran, which is the double hull canoe, and that's how they won the America's Cup back
Mister, I know
Wow.
because of our technology.
you really
Our
hitting
tech-
on some controversial topics there. Talking about our origins.
well, that's what I'm trying to explain is that who had the technology? If we had the technology to sail, that's been our. We know how to sail. No, there's only one other race that would sail beyond the horizon. That were the Vikings. But we're the ones that we were not afraid to sail beyond the horizon. Everybody else would sail close to land. The Polynesians, that was our thing. We would sail everywhere. We discovered every island, inhabitable island in the Pacific. And the Pacific is bigger than any other, put all the land together, the Pacific Ocean is bigger than all the land put together. So we have that technology. So my point is, Lou went from Samoa. I'm the way I'm telling the story. He was a navigator. Okay, he went to all the different islands. Different. There was nine heavens. I would say Tangaloa had a realm, nine realms in its kingdom, and it's not a spiritual realm. These were physical destinations. So he went through the nine and waged war until he got to. And and I'm taking um, lib, I'm I'm taking over a certain thing which is not factual, but the pyramids up in Mexico City.
Yeah, so
Uh,
you're
the,
taking a
yeah,
little garnish there with your
Aztecs.
story, huh?
Oh,
yeah. So I'm saying that was where Tangaloa was, because
oh,
if you ask the natives up in Mexico, the Aztecs did not build that. They don't know who the people were that built those. So that's I'm filling in the gap there.
oh, that's interesting.
Lot, you already know this is my area, bro. Mysteries of the world. Who's
I'm
like
already knowing. I was
he's
like,
speaking
are you
he's
talking
speaking
about
No, I
up.
the
did.
He's
Aztecs?
keeping up to date. I can't believe you're keeping up to date with everything that's going on in the archaeological world, because that's one of the recent findings they just had.
History, remember?
Yep, they just
He
had
has a
like the
background in history.
Aztecs. The Aztecs. He oh my gosh,
That's a wow.
yeah.
Nobody.
Hmm,
They don't know who
that makes
built those
sense.
pyramids. That's the point. The Aztecs, they didn't build them. So that's where I'm kind of like saying, if the chickens that are in America come from the Polynesian islands, and the story about Lu is he went to find his chickens, I'm putting two and two together.
I love it. Oh God, we got to do stuff. We got to collaborate. Wow. Al, tell us about the Talofa Wear. What does the brand represent?
Well, I'm working on it. I do that on the side as something to keep me, occupied. I have a heat press, and you know, I create designs. Now that I've discovered AI, I can make I can make a lot of really cool looking shirts. So that's basically where that is. I'm actually uh, talking to a few companies. One of my buddies up in Seattle, we're talking about uh, doing this clothing line. If it's not a high priority, but it's something I enjoy and I do it. Uh, I give more shirts away than I actually sell. So I'll send you guys a couple of shirts.
Oh God. I love seeing our people build projects rooted in identity and culture, not just trends, but things with meaning behind them. Now, I want to shift into some deeper conversations. You mentioned topics like Samoa's future, politics, Samoa, social media, Christianity, and the changing world around us. And I think these are important conversations to have. When you look at Samoan Polynesian culture today, what concerns you the most, Al?
Well, I think what we are watching develop right now is we look at the world. There are a lot of systems that are collapsing, and these are not by chance. These are a lot of them are intentional. Um, some of them are good, some of them are not. So my point is, we as Samoans, we've been blessed to have. We've been isolated for so long in the middle of the Pacific. So we never really had to deal with people coming in and trying to change us. We were true to who we were. We had our culture. Our culture is strong. We probably got the most intact culture in the world in terms of how it's practiced and how it's perpetuated. So we have to maintain that for all of our young people and our um, younger generations. They can't lose sight of their culture. I mean, there's a lot of
No.
negative parts about it as well, but it's an amazing culture. You go anywhere in the world, you'll never find a culture that's well organized as this. And I always say that Samoan culture is a true democracy because it's based on the families. Each family has a representative in the village council.
Mhm.
And we are probably one of the few places that we didn't have a king. if the king was there, we didn't believe in kings. We had everybody had. Doesn't matter who you are. You come on my land, you're gonna get. I don't care if
Get
you
that
claim to
supper.
be the king of something. You come on our land, you're gonna get. We're gonna chase you off our land. So that's just the beauty of what we have in Samoa is that freedom to be,
Hmm.
you know, and that's based on the culture because the culture is enforcing that kind of democratic. The decisions are made on a chief level, but each family has one or more chiefs in the decision making process. Even in the families, when they have a council. Even the youngest kid can say something. Their voices are loud. They're not. We allow everybody to speak. So it's a beautiful thing that we've been blessed with, in and we want to. I want to maintain that, sustain that, because it it's a it's probably a better system than some of these democratic systems where everything is based on a vote. But sometimes these votes are not well protected. Um, but anyway, that's the part that I think is important that I would like to emphasize for our people. Stay true to who you are. Your culture is very important. It's important though to also experience education and learn how the current world is operating, because if
Yeah.
you don't know how things are operating, you're going to get manipulated. And that's the part that, one thing I'm just so amazed. Our chiefs never went to college, never went to university, but they negotiated deals with these big nations and they came out ahead. you know, they, they, they kept their land. How many native people have kept their lands? Not many. We're one of the few. And that was always one of our main priorities as Samoan chiefs: protect the land. Don't let the Palagi take over our land.
Yeah.
And both American and Western Samoa have that same protection built into their constitutions. And I'm amazed at American Samoa because you would think America would just come in and just steamroll these chiefs, right?
Hmm.
No, they they knew we're not going to become incorporated. Let's stay unincorporated because if you're unincorporated, they can't touch your land, and that's they have the best of both worlds, man. I mean, who would have thought? This little island out in the middle of nowhere can pull off a deal like that. I mean, even Trump should would admire that kind of negotiation. So that's just the nature of who we are. That's why it's important to maintain that so that we don't lose that edge we have. We have an edge because of our ability to understand when people come at us. It's almost like we see them coming a mile away. We already know what's in the back of their and that's because our people, we traveled. We weren't stuck on a little island like most countries, most people. We were traveling. Like we had that technology. We were traveling to Asia. We were traveling to the Americas. We were traveling to, who knows, probably if you go to Madagascar, there's a bunch of village or cities there that are Samoan names. If you go check
Oh
them out,
wow.
they are totally Samoan names. So we probably hit that spot, hit Africa, whatever. I'm just saying we are we are not naive people. We've been
Yeah.
around the world. We know the games that people play, and that's why we've been able to maintain our freedom because you know they can't pull nothing on us. If anything, we're trying to pull the fast one on them.
You mentioned how this I balanced with this because you mentioned your mother taught you how to recognize systems, right?
Right.
And and then the power of networking and just kind of seeing structure for what it is and how the system operates. if you look at that, even till today, for me too, I find that to be something that allows me to have an opinion on things. And if you're looking at our American government and our culture, whatever class or whatever category you want to categorize it, you look at it in terms of a systems lens, you can see the flaws and you can see areas that could be improved and things that needs to be addressed. And that's where it gets really crazy these days. Where that conversation, we can have a whole 3-hour podcast about these things. But just to recognize that through systems, I think is a very important thing. I think many people today are searching for identity, purpose, and connections, and sometimes culture and spiritually are the things that help ground people again. Guy, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, I'm not sure if you were you involved in SSIG.
No, not me.
Okay, so Malae, it was going great. We were doing really good. We so I got involved in this issue in about 2017, and it was the government of Samoa had passed a law where it's LTRA 2008. So that law allowed people to lose their land if somebody registered the land. Whoever registered the land would take ownership of the land. It was a stupid law. I think back in that time, China was really powerful in Samoa. They were really, they were so influential. They had a little Chinese flag under the Samoan flag. This is Western Samoa. So I was getting involved in that, and basically what happened, it went from that issue, that one issue, the protection of customary land, led to the establishment of SSIG, which was, and I'm sorry I didn't bring you in on that, or for whatever reason, because all of the Lemmalai crew jumped in on this. So all of our network, because we had this Lemmalai network, it was easier to set up SSIG. All we did was convert Lemmalai to SSIG. SSIG was Samoa Solidarity International Group. So we formed this, it was a political movement. And basically what we did is we were fighting against so the government at the time was under the political party HRPP, which had been in power for about 40 years.
Wow.
So they were becoming so indebted to the Chinese, and they were getting into these discussions about building a new wharf in Western Samoa. And from what happened, if you look at what happened in Sri Lanka, the Chinese came in, built another wharf. Sri Lanka couldn't pay for it. Next thing, you have all these Chinese warships docked at that wharf. So the Chinese took over basically that area and used that as a military facility. Now I know why China was very interested in Western Samoa, because we're right across the bay from American Samoa. So they can spy on what through the American Samoa. So there's a lot of crazy stuff. That tsunami that hit. Remember that tsunami that hit?
Mm-hmm.
That was during that time, right? The consensus from the scientific community is that's the first earthquake that they've seen where two earthquakes hit simultaneously in the same spot. Never seen before. And I'm thinking, no, that's not. Those are not earthquakes. Somebody's digging something underwater, and I know the spot where that happened. And that what triggered, I think that's what, I'm speculating, of course. But
I know about that speculation you're talking about. That's the thing over there in Tonga and with the big expansion from China. That was during that time where they'd had that forceful expansion trying to expand their
they
territory. They were building,
yes,
I think to the day, they're still building
they're still,
sand piles out in the ocean, bro. This is what he's talking about. And Upolu was going through the HHRP allegedly was letting China take up like loan outs, get loans from them, and is exactly as he said. if you don't pay the loan back, which was happening all over the
Yeah,
Pacific and other
that's
countries connected straight to the Pacific, if you don't pay those loans, you China will be at your back door with guns up blazing, like,
yeah,
yo, where's the
yeah.
money?
China's smart that, and they were, China's agenda was to become a competitor to the U.S. or to take over, from that position. So that was the part that we as SSIG started to realize. We first wanted to change that law, but then the more we got into it, the more we realized even if it's not the law that needs to change. We need to change that government. That government needs to go out. So SSIG was very influential in we recruited because we had all our networks set up in New Zealand, Australia, the US, and even in Europe. We were telling our people, and people were joining. They were joining SSIG. And the point was the diaspora was what we focused on because the going into the country, Samoans are like they weren't ready for it, but the diaspora understood the political scene and the ramifications of what China was doing. So once we convinced our people living, and that's where most of the people living in Samoa get their money. They get their money from people living in Australia, New Zealand, and here in the U.S. So we were telling them, tell your family back in Samoa, we got to change things. Which now we got influence because people always listen to whoever's giving them money, right? So,
And things did
uh,
change, right? Things did
and that's
change.
where when we started that movement, 2020, 2021, now 2020, I think was when FAST came up. And we supported FAST. We switched everything to support FAST. So SSIG was like, we were pushing FAST really hard. So when they won the election in 2021, that to me was a culmination of our work. I was the president of SSIG at the time. So that was the culmination of our efforts to make sure that China does not take over our country. And we're you know we're so happy, thank the Lord that he answered our prayers because China no longer has it still has a bit of a they're still in Samoa, but they don't have the power and influence they used to have. And
Yeah, they
hopefully, we can keep moving to kick them all out.
they kind of
Yeah.
switched tunes up a bit, a bit since things going on in the world, right? But Malola.
Al, the one thing I always like asking guests is about legacy, because eventually titles, careers, and accomplishments fade, but impacts lasts. What kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I don't know. And I was a good bass player.
I like it. I like it. Hey, if people know about bass players, they know. Come on now. This guy.
The coolest guy in the band is always the bass
Yeah.
player.
Man.
Well, I don't know. I think, and I brought up the SSIG thing because I think of all the things I've done, that was perhaps the most important thing because at the time it was very um, serious. And but there's a lot of other things still about to happen. So we're working on a couple of things. I'm I'm here in Arizona. We're working on some projects. So don't be surprised if you hear from me from Samoa in a couple of months.
Mm.
We're hoping that that happens. But that's probably the goal is to go back. I don't know if I really deserve any kind of recognition. All I need is I want to see results. That's my thing. Whoever gets the credit, I don't care about that part. the main thing is that whatever we do helps, change our situation from bad to better, or you know, any of that is more important than, as long as I don't do something, and that's the thing about our culture. We're always told, don't do something that will bring shame to your family. So as long
Yeah.
as you're not doing that, if you're not bringing shame to your family name, you're good. So that's about it.
Nice. I think wisdom becomes most powerful when it's shared. And conversations like this matter because somebody watching may hear something that changes the directions of their life. Al, I got one more question for you. Last question. Somebody remembers one thing from this conversation today. What do you hope that one thing is? What that one thing is?
Well, I I'm always thankful that I can analyze things that are happening. I guess the word I want to say is be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Don't don't just walk into something, and because I watch kids sometimes. There's certain kids, they can see something coming and they'll warn their friends. Okay, that's the kind of kid you want, because that kid's aware of what's going on. The other kids, they're just playing. They're like oblivious, and that's what that's the kind of people that I don't know if you're familiar with. The communist. Um, you know, I think it was either Stalin or Lenin said, there's a they have what they call useful idiots. Um, that's the piece that we want to avoid. And that's never been a piece in our culture. We've never had useful idiots. It's always been, we've always been either at the forefront of, doing good or bad. But we seem to always have that desire to lead, and we're not just followers. And that's the part I want to make sure that we, as our audience, understands how important it is to not be manipulated. Don't let yourself be manipulated. If anything, the only source of truth is God. God is the only source of truth. Right now, we're in an age. Oh my gosh, with AI, it's so hard to tell what's real and what's not real. Right? It's
Yeah.
it's so easy to manufacture something to look real using AI, and there's probably another level to AI that's coming down the road that's going to be even worse. So our job as parents, as brothers, as sisters, is to educate our families not to get manipulated. Understand, first of all, this is my only message: stay close to God. God will never let you go astray, and you're going to need Him even more these days. These are the days that were prophesied. Okay,
Yeah.
we're in those times that were prophesied. There's going to be a lot of deception, a lot of deception. So you need to be close to God in order for you to understand the difference between what's real and what's not real. And I'll end on that.
Albert Uso, thank you again for taking the time to sit down with us. We appreciate your wisdom, your experience, your honesty, and your willingness to share your story. To everyone watching and listening, make sure you support Albert Ainuu and check out his current projects, including Lu, the God Slayer, and Talofa Wear. And as always, continue supporting Polynesian storytelling, creativity, and culture. This has been the Wefobz Podcast, Season 3, Episode 4. I'm your host, Chief Flott. Shout out to my guy, So Smooth. We'll catch you all in the next episode. Peace, love, and blessings, everybody. Bless, bless.
Yeah, we fought from a far place to the top now. Feel the rhythm, yeah. We fought. Came with a suitcase, no place to call home. Just a whisper of a dream on a brand new road I roam. The city lights were loud, the language felt so strange. But every stumble, every lesson was a necessary change. They call me fresh off the boat, a label and a just a new beginning. A tough climb, put my spirit to the test. But I held my head up with the fire in my soul.